Hi.
Mark and Mark. I'm Joanne.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order. I'll note for the record that all four members are present. And we are also, this meeting's on Zoom, so Lisa's coming in. She won't be in for long now. The meeting is being recorded and any votes will be taken via roll call. So we did get some correspondence from Lisa today regarding the lease agreement. So I think that's going to require us to go into executive session and to discuss the current situation. I think the city will be getting back to Lisa, and they did send a message about the part of the agreement of what the agreement meant, but we'll talk about that afterwards. But I don't expect any action tonight to be taken on the new agreement, and we'll go from there. So what I need is a motion to go into executive session, include with for the authority, with the inclusion of our deputy controller. If somebody could make that.
So moved.
By Gary. Can I get a second? Second. All in favor, roll call. Gary?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yep.
Mark? Now you can say
Yes.
it.
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right. Lisa, I'm afraid you're going to be out of the picture for this, so I'm going to send you back to the waiting room if you want to hang out there. All right. So basically, we got an email from
You're still
Lisa.
recording, Mark.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no.
I don't want to speak for everybody. There's two other.
All right. Well, no, we're coming out of executive session knowing that no votes were taken. I'm going to get a hold of Lisa here. We'll give her a few minutes. But back on. Okay, right now we don't have a motion on the floor or anything, so it's just kind of open discussion back on the record regarding the lease agreement. So right now where we're at, I guess, is that we obviously we don't have an agreement. The proposed agreement is a total replacement for the old lease. I think Orla wrote you back on that earlier. In this particular case, obviously there were some issues with the old lease, performance-wise regarding the bookkeeping aspect of it and some other things. When we initially negotiated the first lease, we had expected an increase in business, and that obviously didn't happen. Never mind the whole COVID thing, but we didn't get audited financials. So, and there was no, other parts of the operation, didn't coalesce. So you've been paying the same rent for the last 10 years, which isn't exactly a reasonable expectation. Of course, you and your backers have placed a significant amount of investment in the rink too. So we certainly recognize that. But at this point, you're operating without a lease. So we need to have something. We need to have a lease. I think what
Agreed.
what we've proposed is, I don't think is unreasonable considering the totality of the circumstances. You know, you'll realize considerable savings on an annual basis for not having having to do the bookkeeping, so to speak, you know, the audited financials, which, you know, we both know are kind of costly. And having to do that kind of work ourselves. So, we obviously will realize a general increase in revenue. But it's not an excessive amount considering the totality of the circumstances. And in our case, any revenue goes totally back into the rink. We're not keeping, we're not keeping money for that. It goes to pay the debt the rink has and any things we need to do, like the roof and whatever else has to get done. Repairs and stuff that aren't covered, that are part of the building itself. So I don't know where your head is at on this, Lisa, because in our case, I don't see where we have a lot of options, from the city standpoint, because we just can't. We were having a discussion this past weekend at a goal setting meeting about our budget coming up next year. You know, the city just isn't in a position to pay out monies to keep the rink afloat. So we're not trying to keep your business model afloat based on city revenue. So I'm not sure where you're at. If the numbers don't work for you, it's probably a good idea if you let us know, and we'll have to deal with that. But
It's Mark, it's not that the numbers don't work. I mean, when we went into this project, I mean, that master service agreement is like 44 pages long. That was that was thought out, ad nauseum, that was edited. I can't tell you how many drafts of that I still have on my computer, with the intent that that was going to be immortalized for the next 40 years. I really didn't, until like last night, realized that maybe that was going to go away. And I do need to go back to my partner and just explain to him that we're going to replace all of that work and all of that thought and that 40-page document with
10 years ago, yep.
with a 6-page document. I mean, that master services agreement, I thought, really spelled out, this is what we can expect for the next 40 years. We have no problem continuing to infuse capital into the building as it becomes necessary. I'm very uncomfortable thinking that every single year now for the next 40 years, hopefully, I don't know that I'll be there for 40 years, but whoever
Me either.
is there,
Yeah.
that our rental payment is going to go up 3%, because that means it's going to increase by like a factor of 25% every option. And again, we're pretty, with the building that we have, we're pretty close to maxed out with our time. We don't have any more time to sell. We can't make any more. I don't want to have to start raising prices. And the thing is, when the rent increase was tied into the CPI, I mean, that gave me a comfort zone. Even if it was going to bump every year, it's moving with the flow. Now we don't know what the flow is.
Well, the CPI doesn't exactly, if it was just flat CPI, I think one of the drafts was CPI with a cap or something like that, which really wasn't, all that, our situation, which wasn't all that good, to be honest with you. I forget what the cap was, but
it was 2.5%,
Yeah,
or
so
the average of the CPI, whichever was
Right.
less.
well, at this point, it's it's more, the CPI is higher than that, certainly. It's been higher than that. And I mean, if we want to do a flat CPI, maybe we could talk about that, would be maybe more in the neighborhood. But the cap makes it difficult for us to plan out, for any kind of outcome with a building. So we're thinking in terms of, things like the roof work and other things that I have to do that we're gonna have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on. So that's kind of, and at the current rent, obviously we do any major project, that's 2 years, years worth of revenue usually. So because of what the cost of these projects are now.
Well, but
So-
we also know that we have a multi-$100 project coming down the road. It could be this year, it could be next year. It's gonna be in the next 3 to 5 years for sure.
Probably.
So, I mean, we're kind of in the same position.
So I'm
But I
not
think
sure. Good.
No, I think everyone's goal is the same. We want to keep the rink open. We want to keep it a first-class facility, which is why we infused so much money into it 10 years ago, because we wanted it to be one of the nicest rinks in New England, and we want to keep it that way. So I just think that we need to figure out a way that we can both work together. And if I may be so bold as to ask, why did that base number for like the next year of the lease, which would have been July 1st, 2024, why did they go up 13%? I mean, that's where we're starting from. That's where all the 3% bumps start from.
Orla,
Like,
you're muted.
Apologies. The 13% represents an additional $10,000. And it really comes down to the fact that we haven't had an increase in 10 years, Lisa. So we had to start with a base that was more reasonable than where we were 10 years ago. Our expenses are going up. The costs are going up. We know we have the liability involved on the building, and we know we have potential increases. And because we haven't increased your rent in 10 years, we had to start with a more reasonable base for us.
okay, but I mean, see, that again comes back to the master services agreement, where
The master services agreement doesn't exist anymore.
It was tied to the original lease agreement. It was an exhibit within the original lease agreement, and that lease agreement expired. So it might seem like we've reduced the amount of pages, but this was put together with the help of our attorney. And this is what we're presenting.
well, but
Um,
if the master service agreement was only for the first option term,
No, it
Right.
would have continued. If you had renewed the lease, it would have continued. It would still be in effect. We would be having a different discussion about, changing the lease maybe and stuff. But at this point, you're operating without anything.
but I
So-
thought that we were in renewing the lease. I thought that's what this was about.
No,
It's a new lease agreement.
brand new.
Why is it new and not a renewal?
Because it
Because-
wasn't renewed.
You didn't renew the 10-year, you didn't renew at the 10-year mark.
I thought we did. I mean, I thought
No.
we started these conversations over a year ago.
I think
So, I
we've
mean,
been discussing it for
Even more than
a
that,
year.
yeah.
Okay, so why wouldn't that constitute renewing the lease?
Because we never had an agreement. So in order to continue the old lease, it was incumbent upon you to, formally notify us, I think the window's 90 days before the expiration, I
Yes.
think. And that you were gonna renew.
And our
that didn't
attorney
happen.
didn't do that?
Nobody did that.
Okay.
So, because we're kind of out of options. I mean, I mentioned to you when I saw you at the rink, at the fundraiser, that you were operating without a lease. And, you never said, I figured you were aware of it. So, but, And, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, nobody renewed. So nobody from your side, could have been a letter from you, could have been a letter from your attorney. Simple enough. And that would have been over 6 months ago, 7 months ago, that should have happened. So, but
Okay, I assume that we were working towards renewing the lease in some shape or form.
no, it was a whole new agreement because of the situation with the audited financials and everything else. The whole thing had to be redone regardless. So, because the setup at the rink now is not what, we had anticipated it was gonna be, so. Yeah, I mean, there is no pro shop for all intents and purposes. The concession stand isn't exactly a ongoing concern either, although it is open on occasion. But so it's it's a problem. So it was a problem for us as far as, obviously, we had no idea what you were making or whatever, how much revenue you had or whatever. And the only reason we're even having this conversation now and haven't gone to RFP is that you've done a good job operating the rink, as far as providing the service, the rink, and people are happy with the service. So that's the only reason we're sitting here having this conversation now. And we haven't, because, but let's face it, there's been, some communication issues, let's just say. I'm not gonna point any fingers, but there's been some issues. And this is not, I know when I talked to Bridgeport, when we first talked about bringing you in, I mean, they told us the same thing, that they had some communications issues with you back then. But as well, but one thing for sure is that you run a good operation, as far as the services at the rink go. So, and was the most important thing to us at this, it is now, and it continues to be. So, but the fact of the matter is, the city does have an interest here, and, we need to make sure that the city's interests are covered. Because they're not gonna, because this whole thing has to go before the city council anyway. And I think if anyone here has some idea what it's gonna take to pass the city council that's sitting here anyway, it's probably me. So since I'm on the city council, but these things are need to be addressed basically. So, and I don't think it's a big ask. And considering the fact that, we've gone 10 years with nothing. So, and the way, let's face it, especially the last 4 or 5 years, costs have been, increasing a lot more than, what we were talking about before. So I could babble on for a long time, but I think, this is where we're at. So, if you want to take some time and think about it, talk to your investors, and let us know what you feel. If you got something you want to come back with, you can, but I'm not going to say it's going to be looked on all that great. I think, I'm pretty sure, I mean, because finance has the big say in this, and I figure that they want to make sure that the building can be operated successfully. So, and that's the major concern. I mean, we're not here, like I said, we're not here to make a profit. There's no way, shape, or form what this is about. But we just can't go in the tank. That's what it boils down to. So you want to, look into it, Lisa, and then get back to us. I don't know how much time do you need?
Well, right now, I'd just like some clarification on a couple of things you just said.
Yeah.
You make it sound as though that our operation is almost a disappointment.
Well, the services aren't, what we started at 10 years ago, they aren't they aren't the same. But with that said, the major part of the services and the investment you've put into the rink are all top shelf. So you're not running a, you know, let's say a ham and egg organization. You're not doing that.
Mark,
You're
you're
doing
talking
it-
about the amenities, right?
Yeah, no, I'm talking the investment that they put into the rink on a regular basis. Some of which, you know, we had to, you know, take out of, you know, our stuff, but by and large, they invested a large amount of money into the rink for the business. So,
But
and
so
that's
I-
important. So,
Okay, so before we move forward, I just want to know, like, obviously you're unhappy with things that are going on at the rink, and I'm just asking for some clarification on how we can make things better.
I'm not a user of the service. So I'm not in a position, I think maybe Joanne might be a better person to talk to about that. But personally, my main interest is the overall financial condition. So
I'd
I'm
be glad to
I'm
speak
just
on
pointing
that
out,
since you've
yeah,
mentioned
I am just pointing out how things are different now than what they were 10 years ago when we first started this relationship. So that's all. So no, I'm not, you know,
I might have a moment, Mark.
go
please?
ahead. Sorry, Joanne.
No, that's okay. Thank you. I just wanted to, since you brought me up, you know, just to reiterate, the ice is top notch. There's no issues. I have not heard of any issues brought to the city whatsoever.
Neither have I.
Right. So we're talking 100% absolutely southeastern Connecticut, top notch rink, New England area. Not to interpret Mark's words, but yes, I do agree that, you know, there was going to be some sort of pro shop that hasn't panned out in that area. And the snack bar is part-time. I'm not aware of any issues with the snack bar either. So as a facility itself, and I'm going to comment on two separate things because Mark just brought this up and mentioned me. Two separate things in my opinion, is the financial contract and the lease itself and the operation. The operation I have no issues with, absolutely zero. I stop in, I go there, I talk to everybody, all of the leagues, and just to hear that you have no ice, absolutely like no ice left to sell, that's huge, huge. Conversely, it's a business. Business costs money. So we need to separate, and I know it's probably not answering your question, Lisa. I'm specifically not talking operational. I'm talking the lease itself. And inside of that lease, you know, there was some stuff foregoing the audited financials to give you some relief in that area while we went over to the CPI and the base jump. So that's supposed to be, when you look at that, pretty much a 1-to-1 going from there. But I just want to say that I don't think operational there's any issues in my mind, or the capital that you've infused, or the program that you're doing. So this conversation this evening is about the lease itself, going month to month, the expired original plus the new one that, you know, has been written and given to you. So if you have any questions about that area, I'm glad to answer them. Operationally, I have no concerns.
Thank you, because I thought we were doing a great job, and we did try multiple times to get some sort of a pro shop going, and there just isn't the demand for it.
Yep.
People
And-
want to buy things online
Yep.
now.
And that's what
we
now
recognize
that
that.
takes that out of, you know, that's also the reason why the MSA has moved over into this lease. We don't have the retail component. We don't have the catering or any of that coming out of the snack bar. We have, you know, an amenity to a top-notch sheet of ice. So that's also a change in, you know, the way it was, and between that and the audited financials. But
Okay.
so I can speak for myself. I have no issues with your operational or what you've done to take care of it, or the sheet of ice that you're putting on, or any of that.
If we had an issue, if we had any
Yeah.
significant issue, we would have brought it up to you.
Exactly. So
I mean, this is not, you know, I'm not trying, I'm just, you know, as a matter of the lease, I'm just,
Correct. Physically
that's the
deleted.
only reason that's the only reason I even point that stuff out, that's all.
Okay.
But
It just-
the
it just came up,
the situation has changed over the 10 years, so,
As things do, decades,
yeah,
right?
Of course,
right.
of course.
So this is better in alignment. This new lease is a better alignment with the current business at hand and also basically the current prices, just like Orla had said, you know, and respecting that huge infusion of capital in the beginning, but with no rate change over 10 years, this new lease, you know, it jumped up a little bit. So if you take $10,000 over 10 years, that's literally $1,000 rate increase over 10 years, which is really not a bad, you know, amount. So that was the bump up there. And please, if I'm misrepresenting you,
It
Orla, in
wasn't-
any way or Mark, please.
Wasn't even that if you consider the year to year, you know, that, so. but,
Exactly.
uh,
So, but I mean, I'm willing to address any questions that either of you have, but for Mark's request for me, that's my point of view.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me ask you this, is this gonna go on every 10 years, or is there gonna be a way to seamlessly move from one option to another option?
What do you mean? Do you want an option to renegotiate, or do you want,
No, I would like to just know that
All you
we
have
have
to-
this agreement and it just keeps moving forward.
once we have a new agreement in place, I mean, the nature of this agreement is the same in that if you renew it every 10 years, like you know, like
I would send
you
her a
should
letter of
have.
intent. I would send her a letter of intent 6 months before the option is to be invoked and clearly state what you are interested in, if any changes need to be made. Or if you just want to continue on into the, you know, invoke the second part of the lease.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, you should invoke the second part of the lease if we haven't settled on any changes, you know, so. But the new agreement, when you renew it, it's gonna just keep going the way it is unless, you know, we negotiate some changes. So, I mean,
And-
and I'm not saying, you know, 10 years from now, hey, everything could be different.
Right. Orla,
That's
can
not
you
prob-
check
you know.
I don't have it up in front of me. Do we have that clause in there that specifically outlines 6 months before the end of the 10-year contract or request a renewal?
So on the new lease, Article 2, Section 2.2, lessor hereby grants to lessee the right to extend the term for 3 consecutive 10-year periods commencing on July 2034. To exercise its rights under Section 2.2, lessee shall notify lessor within 120 days prior to the
Okay.
expiration of the then current portion of the term.
And what
indicating-
page is that?
That's on page... It's page 1, first page after the title page.
Okay, so Lisa, that's where that to answer your question, it's in that lease on page 1 after the title page.
Okay. All right, so if you can give me a week to I have to have my lawyer or the team of lawyers, it's actually my investors' lawyers,
Yeah,
just go through the lease and give it their blessing. And it may take a day, it may take a week, I don't know, but I
Okay.
will have that done
if
as quickly as
just
possible.
if I could ask you, Lisa, you know, if you need longer than a week or whatever, just to drop us a note and let us know, yeah, this is taking longer than I thought. You know, I'll get back to you in another week or whatever, if you could do that, please, because otherwise we're kind of left hanging. And I know some people are kind of anxious about, you know, about this, like me.
And I do, you know, throw it out there, I'm
I've got a-
willing to meet in person anywhere or
That too,
anytime.
we were talking about that before you came back, that, you know, would be certainly willing to do a sit down meeting in person or something like that if you want to do that, to get together, if you want to bring somebody or whatever. All right,
Okay. Okay, so what I'll do is I will check in with you by Wednesday of next week at the latest.
thank you.
Give you a status update if I know something sooner, I don't imagine anything will happen until next week anyway now, because with tomorrow being Friday.
Yep.
So,
All right, Lisa, appreciate it. Thank you.
okay.
Thank you for being patient with me.
Thank you.
Like I
Thank
said, I'm not
you.
trying to say anything derogatory about your operation, you know, it's not my intent. But I just pointing out the difference from what's happened in 10 years, you know, so. All right, but
Okay.
all right. I don't think there's any other business on the agenda, so go with a motion to adjourn, please.
Make a motion that we adjourn for the evening.
By Mark Sacuso, second, please. I'll second, the heck with it. All in favor, myself, yes. Joanne,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
unanimous. We'll stand adjourned at 7:49 PM. Thank you, everybody.